It was my third weekend in Formula 1 and it was just so hard. It's off camber a little bit, so if you turn in late, you're never going to get to the apex. In the entry, you always have the oversteer. In the mid-corner, you always get that understeer. I always used to take my hands off the wheel, brace. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to F1 Fridays. And this weekend we're going to Imola in Italy, a fantastic track. But to begin the video, remember, you have the opportunity as always to get the top trending comment on this video. And if you get that, I'm going to send you a surprise gift. And the question this week is, what for you is the funniest moment of all time in Formula 1? That's what I want to know. So comment below now. Good luck. And let's hit it now with a slow lap to show you all the secrets about this track. Okay, here we go into the slow lap now. I'm going to tell you all the secrets, every single detail. So you can see in braking here, it's very difficult because you got the shadow from the trees. And that makes it so hard for you to see the edge of the track, to see your braking marker point, like the things that you remember on the track to know where you're going to brake. So huge challenge here. So you got to find your way around it. And still, even with the shadows, remember some marking points on the ground, some lockups from previous cars where you can see some black lines. Like for example here, 2 lines going off to the left. That could be your braking spot. So that's a big challenge here in this corner. And then it's so fast here. Huh? So you arrive here in 8th gear, you downshift, 4th gear, turn in. I think you can probably hit this curb pretty hard because there's not much of an acceleration afterwards. So hit that curb pretty hard. And then here you're already on almost flat out throttle again. So this curb you have to avoid. Otherwise, when you're on flat throttle, it's going to throw off the rear and you're going to spin. So that curb you have to avoid. And this is just flat out now. And you use the maximum amount of the track because the next one is easy flat. So you use all the track here. And then the next one, upshift cleanly. The next one is nearly flat. There we go. Okay, now this part, really interesting. So fast. Alex just said I have to shut up and talk a bit more quiet, but it's really loud in my ears. So this part, really interesting. Here you arrive in 7th gear. And in this first kink to the left, you don't lose any time, even if you lift a little bit, because there's no, there's nothing after it. There's no long straight or anything. So the exit of it doesn't matter. So you really have to compromise this first part completely so as to position yourself perfectly for the next right-hander. So here, a little bit of a lift, just to make sure that you're maximum left, to tap the brakes ever so slightly and to have the best, widest entry into the next part. So here it's a downshift into 5th gear, very short downshift, very smooth on the brakes because you're going so fast changing direction. If you brake too hard and it's a longitudinal, you unsettle the rear in all this change of direction. So very smooth on the brake, little tap and then off again and on the power again. And 5th gear through here, probably you have to avoid the inside curb because by now you're going so fast. And the faster you go, the more difficult it is to take these big curves because with speed, they just throw you off so much. So it's only with slow speed corners that you can allow yourself to take that big curb. So avoid the big curb on the inside. And then again here, of course, you can use as much curb on the outside as possible. The limit will probably be the bottoming underneath. So probably middle of the car like that, 5th gear. So now you upshift again, 6th gear. Now you come to this hairpin kind of thing here. So again, wide entry, downshift into 3rd gear here. The exit, very important because it's uphill, so you have to get good speed up the hill in the exit, otherwise you lose a lot of time uphill. So it's quite a late turn in there, and then turn in, stay tight, and then go and hammer the power down to get a good run up that hill. Probably this exit curb is quite big and bumpy. Well, no, it's looking flat now, so it looks fine. So you probably can take a bit of that exit curb, depending on the amount of grip there. It's hitting my steering pretty hard. So if it's that harsh of a curb, then you have to avoid it. So now, of course, accelerating well up the hill here. Here again, this is a super hard corner here. So you're coming up the hill, you can't really see the exit at all. So you have to remember your turn-in point here. So it's a beautiful change of tarmac here, from the light tarmac to the dark tarmac. So that could be a beautiful indicator for you to turn in just before that or whatever. I think it's just before that in this case. And then quick downshift, 5th to 7th gear. What you can do also is you can downshift late because downshifting destabilizes the rear. So you could just brake a little bit, don't downshift at all yet, go into the corner, that really settles the rear. And then the very late entry, that's where, of course, in the entry you always have the oversteer. In the mid corner you always get that understeer. It's always there. So you could leave your downshifting to the very end and then use it in the middle of the corner to just unsettle that rear a little bit and get around your understeer. So that's beautifully using that shifting, downshifting for the balance of the car. Again, not many drivers will be doing that, but that's a beautiful detail which will give you a couple of hundredths and really help you get around that corner. On the exit here, so your 5th gear, upshift 6th gear, of course, use all the road on the exit there. Now again, a really tough one here. So position yourself all the way on the left, and this first kink has to go flat. But again, don't worry, even if it's not quite flat, you don't lose any time. Here it's just about positioning the car for the next one. So you can probably afford to miss the apex ever so slightly to get the braking straight here and then brake hard straight. 6th gear here, so you're going to downshift into 3rd gear. And then it's a really hard one here because the exit tightens up even more, tightens up more and more, so you can underestimate how tight the exit goes. So 3rd gear, you can hit the curb here all the way to that big bump. You can't hit those black ones because that will throw the car off, but you can go all the way there. And then 3rd gear, as I say here, and then run out wide and keep steering for a long time. Keep steering, use as much curb as you can there on the exit, and then straight line it. Even though the track goes to the left, straight line it so that you get the maximum amount of traction down, and then steer at the very last moment. Because the straighter you are, the more traction you can get down, because you're not losing any of the grip to the lateral loads. So now we're going up here. Chicane, super hard this one. Braking at 70 meters. Braking 3rd gear, and then maximum attack here. Maximum attack as much of the curb as possible, touching a little bit of that yellow. And this second one here, you probably also have to attack the curb as much as possible. And then, again, use the track as much as you can. Surely you're going to have to leave 2 tires on the track, 2 tires off the track at most. So then 3rd gear, accelerating up nicely here. Now downhill. Downhill, remember, your deceleration capacity is less, because you're going downhill, so you have to brake a little bit earlier. So here you brake at around 80 meters, right about here. Brake very hard, you're in 7th gear, brake very hard in 3rd gear here, and early turn in, because you can see it's off camber a little bit, so if you turn in late, you're never going to get to the apex. So you need to turn in a little bit early here, a lot of front locking here, because you're turning in with that off camber, so it could be brake balance a little bit rearward for this one. And then hug the inside, don't take the curb there, because it's too high, that curb is going to throw you off. You can use the curb a little bit on the exit, but just before the turn-in, you've got to be back on the tarmac, because if you're turning in when you're still in that curb, that turn-in phase is very important to have a very good grip and settled car, and if you're on the curb still, when you do that first flick of turn-in, you could lose the car or you lose grip, so try and get back off the curb just before that turn-in flick. And then here, 4th gear, a little bit of a lift, and then straight back on the power, and focusing so much on the exit because it's a really long straight. So here, use as much curb on the exit as you can, and then focusing on the exit here, really long straight, upshift beautifully, and then that's the end of the lap. Accelerate nicely, that's the end of the lap. And now we're going to jump right into the hot lap, and you're going to see all that flat out, and I can tell you one thing, I nailed the hot lap. It was a beautiful lap, so check it out. So that was it now with the hot lap. Bit rally silence in the first corner, but otherwise I think it was a great lap. And now we're going to jump right into the Q&A session. Question 1. You raced in Imola 2006. What do you remember the most and what's special about it? What I remember the most, it was my 3rd weekend in Formula 1, and it was just so hard. I crashed in 3rd free practice, destroyed the car, so I had to go into qualifying without being perfectly prepared. And I just felt so uncomfortable in qualifying. The balance wasn't right. and I was a bit scared of failing as well, because I'd done so well in my first 2 races coming into Formula 1. This was the first European one, so really just some of those first really big pressure moments of when you get to Formula 1. Question 2 from Marie. Imola is very narrow. How does driving style and race strategy change on narrower tracks versus wider tracks? The biggest difference is that it's just harder to overtake as well. So I see they've removed actually that last chicane at the very end of the lap. So that used to be there in my time, but it's not there anymore. So now the straight is like much longer. So that's going to make overtaking a bit easier, hopefully. So let's see if it's possible, but that's really the biggest difference, that overtaking, especially now the cars are so wide with those wider tires, it's going to be much more difficult. Question 3 from Andrew. What's the visibility like in wet races? Are there any tricks to maintain good visibility? The visibility is so bad in wet races. Sometimes you look in front of you and all you see is just white, nothing else. So to understand where you are on the track and you're doing 300 kilometers an hour, you have to look left and right to search for the wall of the track and search for something that you may remember on that wall to understand where the breaking point might arrive. So it's just absolutely unimaginable, absolutely crazy. You can't even see the red light blinking on the guy in front. Nothing at all. And imagine, sometimes there's also rivers and things, you know, so you need to like drive in the right place and you have no idea, you can't see anything. So it's unbelievably demanding, also quite dangerous. Question 4 from Clay. Carlos Sainz has had great starts all season. Is reaction time the only factor that determines a great start? And does the car technology have a big impact as well? Yeah, I mean, kudos to him for sure. Pretty impressive. Starts, yes, reaction time is decisive, but it's like, you know, there's not much in it at all. I used to have my own like simulator just with the steering wheel and the lights in my room, and I used to practice the reaction time just before getting into the car for a start. I don't think every driver has that, so that was something that I wanted to do. And I think one of our talents as a Formula 1 driver is that we're super fast at reacting. So I once did a competition against some students at F1 in schools, and my reaction time was 0.133, which is like off the charts. It was unheard of. So I think that's one of those talents that we Formula 1 drivers have, to be able to react fast, which is what we need to do because there's so much coming at us all the time. That's one of the skills we need to have. But I have to add that I think Carlos has just done some amazing driving as well. In turn 1 to turn 2, he just put the car in the right place, used the right aggressivity. Really, really good job. Question 5 is from Dominic. To which extent was Kimi Räikkönen's 11-car overtake in lap 1 of Portugal lucky car placement versus great racing skill? So that was really, it was both. First of all, let's remember Kimi had a new set of soft tires on and it was raining. So that gave him a big advantage over most other people, even over those people who had a used set of soft. And remember also that many of the guys up front were using mediums, or even someone like Vettel was on a medium set of tire. So there you have no chance, you know, when it's raining, it's cold, no chance against the guy on soft. And at the same time, I think Kimi just had one of those special moments in his career where he's just so talented and always in the right place, right time, aggressive, making no mistakes. Fantastic driving from him. Question 6 from Raphael. What safety protection measures can drivers take when they know they're about to crash? So I always used to straight away take my hands off the wheel, brace, close my eyes and just wait for the massive shunt. And I've always been impressed how someone like Lewis, he never lets go of the steering wheel. And I would be so scared, you know, I mean, the steering wheel can rip your hand off if it flicks once you crash into the barrier. And Lewis just always like solidly holds the steering wheel. And in fact, that's also given him advantages sometimes, because when it's a light tap, even then I would let go of the steering wheel, and then the tap can like pull the tire in and it can rip the tire off. Whereas Lewis keeps his hands on the steering wheel really firm and keeps control, and so the tap won't pull the tire in, and sometimes it can save him from breaking his suspension. So like last year in Hockenheim, actually 2019 in the wet, I saw exactly that. So sometimes it's an advantage, but I was just always so scared that it would rip my hand off. But the thing is that you have that power steering element, you know, and the front suspension, there's some physical reason why the front will never cause the steering wheel to flick. I never actually found out what it was, which is a bit stupid, but it's to do with the power steering and the geometry and the steering geometry. So again, that's it from me here from F1 Fridays. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember your chance for the top comment. What is your funniest moment of all time in Formula 1? I look forward to reading your comments. Thank you very much for tuning in, and subscribe to not miss out on the next video. It's coming up soon. We've got some amazing stuff, so subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.